Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to the Capeness Amateur Gramantics Society for another tasting. I'm just back from Orkney. My lovely wife had arranged for us, for my birthday, as a surprise, a trip to Orkney Lux Lodges in Stromness for 3 nights. She also arranged a trip to Grahamsay, a short ferry ride away from Stromness. We circumnavigated there then by foot just over 6.5 miles, and I got sunburned. And the next day, we had a tour and tasting at Scapa Distillery. And Scapa Distillery was founded by McFarlane and Townsend in 1885, with the operation being headed up by John Townsend. John Townsend was the general manager of the operation until 1919, when the Scapa distillery was founded. However, it went into voluntary liquidation in 1934. Production resumed in 1936 when the Bloch brothers took over the distillery. Hiram Walker then took over production in 1954, and in 1959 they installed a Roman still. In 1978, the distillery underwent a massive modernisation, but then the site was mothballed until 1994. In 1997, production began to be slowly reintroduced, with staff from Highland Park working on the site for a few months of the year. Extensive refurbishing took place at the site in 2004, which resulted in it being open fully. And in 2005, phase two of the refurbishment process started, and production at the site was halted for some months. That same year, production at the site was taken over by Shivas Brothers through the acquisition of Allied Domecq by Pernod Ricard, who still control operations at the distillery today. Scapa Distillery's production capacity stands at 1 million litres a year. It draws its water from the Ringo Burn. It's actually transported down from the spring there, as well as several other sources. But they don't want the water coming down off the hill, off the spring, because they don't want to introduce any peat uh, down into their whiskey from the water source. So when we did the tour, we saw the pot stills, and there is a wash still and a spirit still. The capacity of the wash still stands at 13,500 litres, and the spirit still stands at 13,563 litres. The wash still is a Roman still with the recognisable bulb-shaped bottom of the standard pot still, but instead of a tapering neck, it has a wide, thick neck, which rises straight out of the spherical lid. This uprising chimney is cooled with fresh water by the special mantle of the Roman design. In contrast, the spirit still has a standard onion shape with a very wide, bulbous, spherical shape and conical neck. So the Roman still at Scapa Distillery is the only Roman still being produced for Scotch whisky. Uh, it previously had plates, copper plates in it, which cut down on the reflux, which would result in a sweeter spirit. They've removed the plates, but but still there is much less reflux in the Lowland still. Therefore, we still get that honeyed, sweet new make spirit that Scapa is famed for. For the malting, it had its own malting floors until 1966, with barley being brought in from Speyside. Interestingly, if you go to the warehouses now, they have about, I think it's about 20 barrels. They almost exclusively mature in American ex bourbon barrels. And they had about 20 barrels with bare barley on them. And bare barley is the Orkney barley, which is somewhat different DNA to the barley that you would get on Speyside, for example. And Brewick Laddie have actually distilled whiskey with bare barley from Orkney. And it'd be interesting to see the casks were dated 2020, so I don't know. This is going to be a very limited release, probably quite expensive, I would think. But it'd be interesting to see what the Orkney barley does to Scapa. The site now buys in all its malt from an industrial source on the mainland, apart from the bare barley that it's just experimenting with, really. Whereas the malt used in the production of Scapa is not peated. It's unusual for an island single malt. Scapa has 3 racked warehouses on site, and the distillery uses almost exclusively bourbon casks in which to mature its single malt. The warehouses at the distillery are incredibly close to the sea, which has led to the management closely monitoring the impact of the salt in the air on the whisky. And the distillery has not tracked any marked impact of the salt on the flavour of their single malt, nor on the barrels in which it is held. So when we did the tour, we saw the stills, we saw the washbacks, some Oregon pine rather, and some stainless steel washbacks. I think there was 8 in total, 4 of each. And then we were taken outside and then into a new tasting room called the Noost, which is an Orkney term for where they would lay their boats up. And the ceiling of the Noost, the tasting room, is it's an upturned boat called an Orkney Yule, which is a sort of broad-beamed fishing vessel that was used sails up until really the 1960s. This was the fishing vessel of Orkney. You'd also get Shetland Yules, and for Caithness you would get a Stroma Yule, all slightly different in shape. And it's very broad beamed, and it's a beautiful piece of carpentry. The Noose, the tasting room, is beautifully lit, beautiful chairs, some antiques, beautiful shelving, and cost £3.8 million, and is just lovely. The ultimate tasting room. So Scapa whisky, it's the second most northerly in Scotland, beaten by only half a mile by Highland Park. And it's released in a small number of official bottlings, which include a 12-year-old, 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old. The 16-year-old was the standard release from the site, having replaced the 14-year-old in 2009, which was the previous official bottling. And in addition to these bottlings, there's been a 25-year-old bottling released by the distillery. But now the 16-year-old was discontinued in 2016, and the only official bottlings that are released by the distillery are the Arcadian Skirrin and the Arcadian Glanza. But later this year, a new 16-year-old is coming. In addition to the official bottlings from the distillery, there have been a great number of independent releases of the single malt. Uh, the majority of these have been released by Douglas Lang and Gordon MacPhail and include a massive cross section of different ages, ranges from 11-year-old to a 25-year-old. So when we did the tasting, we got a tasting of three, and because my wife was driving and it was about 12 o'clock, I didn't really want to, so I nosed and sipped. But they give you three little bottles. The glasses, they give you small sized Glencairns, and they give you three little bottles with a funnel to pour the whiskey into. So the three they gave us were, first of all, the 2023 Distilleries Calusa Scapa 14-year-old at 48.1%. Then the second was the Scapa Glanza at 40%. And the third was from the Distillery Reserve Collection 2008 Scapa 12-year-old at 60.2%, fully matured in Oloroso sherry cask per still. And our guide was a German called Chris. It was his first tour, and I have to say he was excellent. And he clearly had a great love of the whiskey industry. And if you get the tour, it's worth asking the question because he does know a lot about whiskey. He's visited 70 distilleries. He was non forthcoming when I asked him which was his favourite apart from Scapa. So we're going to do a tasting of Scapa. I'm going to start off with the Scapa Skiren, which wasn't part of the tasting at the distillery, but the Scapa Skiren is a 2015 addition to the Scapa range, and it's a handsomely honeyed single malt. I think honey would be one of the signature notes of Scapa whiskey. And it's been distilled using the Scotch whisky industry's only remaining working Roman still. I think Bruichladdich has a Roman still for gin production, or yeah, I think it's Bruichladdich that do the botanist, but I need to check that. So the Skiren was matured in first fill American oak calf, which should bring plenty of vanilla and honey notes to the table. And the name Skiren comes from the Old Norse word for glittering bright skies. But this one's a hidden age, it's a non-age statement. It's got that strange name, and of course it's chill filtered, coloured, and it's at 40% ABV, so none of the good stuff. But let's see what we've got here. So it's a nice gold colour, but we know that it's not naturally coloured. And it's the very thin tears. So on the nose, so straight up I'm getting wet cardboard and gravel and wet plaster. Once you get beyond that, you get some meadow flowers with citrus fruits, green apples, and a dusty malt. There's hints of pine needles with crushed walnuts and a light mintiness. It stays, overall, it stays pretty green. And then you get the runny honey and the fresh cream from those American oak casks. And there's hints of apple and a touch of anise. And there's maybe in the background some crushed notes and some fresh green oak strikes there. And then you get the maritime, a little bit of seawater and kelp. touch of paraffin, and then drops of apple vinegar and thin slices of lemon drizzle cake. Lilies, hints of broken branches, malted barley, and then we're back to that green oak. It's fresh. Ginger with honey and floral notes. Sweet vanilla meets fresh hay and summer meadows. So we'll try them out. It's very soft, almost watery. The mid palate has a nice fruitiness, crisper apple and juicy pear with lemon peels and a bit of honey and butterscotch sweetness. Then you get malty notes as well as some plankish wood and green tea. More of the honey warmth, and it's getting richer. Sparks of juicy pear and lemon peel, and touches of oak develop further on, bringing some balancing spiciness. It's pretty good. Very malty with some tea flavoured scones, Earl Grey tea, and some slightly salted cakes. And then gooseberries. It's not a big whiskey, but it's not a weak whiskey either. It's round and creamy, quite simple. Uh, it's hard to get beyond this sweet, pleasant honey, vanilla, and toffee. It is fruity with notes of pineapple, grapefruit, and pears, along with honey, dried flowers, and a hint of spice in the background. Now I'm getting it's rich and buttery and fruity with notes of peaches and pears, subtle spice and hints of vanilla and lemon zest. And the finish is medium length and a bit sweet, with oakiness lasting as well. It's still a bit salty, salted cakes and pastries, uh, more butterscotch in the aftertaste, as well as a little coffee. It's a bit rough and one-sided on the finish. You get the young spirit in this, no age statement. It's a nice, sweet and mellow whiskey. It's got a demerara sweetness and soft spice on the finish. I'm gonna add 3 drops of water, 4 drops. We'll see what we get. One, two. Oh, I've got a little pipette and I only got 2 drops in it, so I'm gonna add another two. So it'll be 4 drops in total. Let's see where we go with this. And you don't really get Scotch mist in this because, of course, it's been chill filtered. So the water adds butterscotch and cereal and lime cordial with musty peaches almonds, cinnamon, and table salt. Try them out. Doesn't change the palate much. Add some spices, maybe more peaches on the palate with tin pear and a little honey. And it gets spicier with drops of water. Tingling spices in a drying finish, which become quite bitter, which kind of detracts a bit from the overall balance. So Scapa Skiren, uh, probably about £40 a bottle in the supermarkets. It's fine and it can stand the lower strength. And I quite like the feeling of a salted pastry. Although initially I was a bit worried because it's got the white cardboard at first, but it opened nicely. Uh, the wheat flavours make it a beginner's dram, but it's all but boring. In fact, it kind of grows on me. If it was bottled at a higher strength, non-chill filter, no colour, I'd be more interested in it. So we'll cleanse our palates with tonight I'm on Stockholm's Oatcakes from Strong Nest. So for our next whiskey, we're going to a whiskey that I first tasted uh, in 2015. I was in Kirkwall with my wife, and she went off to do some shopping. So I went into Judith Glue's shop, which has a cafe at the back, which also sells drinks. And I had a coffee, and then I spied they had a special offer on the Scapa 16-year-old, and I had one, and I just thought it was nothing. And so went down the street, and there was I can't remember the name. It's still there. It's a sort of large purveyor of drinks, delicatessen, groceries. A great shop if you're ever in Kirkwood to investigate it. And I bought a bottle of the Scapa 16-year-old. And the lady told me, she says, you're lucky to get this because it's just been discontinued. And it was originally launched in 2008, and it was later discontinued in 2015. And I believe it's fetching up to about £200 on the auction sites. I think I paid about £57 for it in 2015. It's a great find for fans of this hard to find jam. It's matured in New American oak casks. And coming from the island of Orkney, the sea breeze does show in it. And the packaging is lovely. You get this, it tells you a story. It looks like the view from a lighthouse. You've got probably an Orkney yawl with the sails and the broad beam, and hopefully the whiskey feels like it too. It reminds me of my trip to Grahamsey, where the trip round the island and visiting the old church and the graveyard and the lighthouse, passing the lighthouses, and then waiting room in the ferry told a real great story for you. And it added a lot of romance to the idea of people living. There's this island that's 1.5 miles across and 6.5 miles round. Not the easiest path round the coastal path round Guernsey. It's quite romantic, and the whole story is quite romantic. Involves press gangs and, of course, the war ships going up and down Scapa Flow. Uh, so hopefully with Scapa 16 we're going to get a bit of the story as well. And the package doesn't ruin anything. This is the bottle I bought in 2015, and 40% ABV. It will be chill filtered and coloured. Uh, I've had a few of these. So, but I still feel like I'm in a mystery lighthouse on Grahamsea, and I'm going to be sipping away at some great single malt, feeling the salt air breezing through. And just like the island, the whiskey isn't really a mystery to me. And I must confess, I do like this. Interestingly, you mentioned the lighthouses. On the ferry, there was a man going over to service one of the two lighthouses on Grahamsea, and he was from the Northern Lighthouse Board, and he spent the day there servicing the lighthouse. Sort of brings the story full circle. So, 16-year-old Scapa, blast from the past, discontinued 9 years ago, but they're bringing out a new 16-year-old later this year. And it has nice tears, lovely tears actually. And on the nose, it's very full and fruity immediately. There's citrus, there's some apples, there's grassiness as well, and there's a bit of floral notes, plants, and some flowers that have spent some days in a vase. Some pear and pineapple, those tropical fruits, and vanilla. And there's a sort of delicate smokiness there. Salty sea breeze and earthly tones. But malt and honey are the main attractions. Vanilla, brine, and salty toffee. Malt and oak. Sweetness. Stone fruits. Malt and cereals. It's a very floral, light, and fragrant whiskey. There's some apple citrus, slightly spirity. There's rhubarb, kiwi, apple juice, and these mineral tones, sun-heated gravel. And there's light notes of dried fruits, dried apricots, and raisins. We'll try them out. It's soft, it's smooth, but it's watery and has a slightly thin mouthfeel. Get honey, sweetness, some fruits like pineapple, delicate smokiness with herbs, cinnamon, and tea. Quite earthy. It's a simple, but I'll tell you what, it's a delicious dram. Salty, and then wax polished oak. Uh, Dryness with sweet heather honey, vanilla and lemon, and some oak bitterness and spices. Honey and oak join the stone fruits and floral parts. And you get white pepper and a hint of smokiness. Pepper sweet, then woody bitterness. And then you get that lemon compote tones. And the finish is still smooth and soft. Sweetness dominates, honey, and then more pepper, and it's stronger in the finish, the pepper. Hints of smoke and honey. So sort of short, medium length finish with lots of oak woody spices, vanilla, lingering mostly at the back of the mouth, and the warm pepper, soft orange peel, and caramel. I'm going to try 4 drops of water in this. There's a tint of Scotchness there. So let's see. It opens up marvellously. Sweet oranges, sugared lemon, red plums, mango, pineapple, apricots, and peaches. Green tea with a sort of floral scent. Bitter almonds leaning towards marzipan. Little waxiness, and there's some smokiness as well. And spicy as in a sort of tobacco, pipe tobacco. But that fruitiness also that pipe tobacco has. And there's that sort of pleasant herbiness, very in balance. The herbiness slightly behind the fruits. Try the mouth before. It's syrupy sweet, tobacco, leather, and mint tingles directly on the tongue. And that then spreads sweet and sour fruit, plums and pineapple. And then you get the spiciness, but it's not a bitter spiciness. Uh, the oak comes forward, pepper, rosemary, and more tobacco, sawdust, milk chocolate, tree bark, and black tea. And on the finish, you get the oakiness. Then you get cooling mint, fresh, dried, slightly astringent with water on the finish. And a sort of ethereal pepperiness, as from cumin seed and rosemary, but not like it's got the taste of these spices. So this is a pretty straightforward whiskey, but very refreshing stuff. It's positively surprising that you get the intensity of coastal fruitiness that it can present at a mere 40% ABV. And I would have loved this one at cask strength. So we'll cleanse our palates again. The next three whiskies are the three whiskies that I got at the tasting at the distillery. And I think the great thing about it is that there's three very distinctive whiskies, three and very different whiskies from one another. And the first one is the Scapa 14-year-old distillery exclusive, bottled at 48.1%, non-chill filtered, naturally coloured, although it doesn't say that on the bottle. So it was distilled on the 12th of December 2008 and bottled in 2023, producing 1,500 bottles from American oak casks. And so I'm going to use, I'm not going to open the bottle. I bought the bottle actually, I did like this one. And I bought the bottle, and I'm going to use the sample that I got from the distillery rather than opening the bottle just yet. So, not cask strength, but 48.1%. So we're getting more like, well, we are into the realm of meeting the gold standard. It meets all of the gold standard. Non-chill filtered, naturally coloured, 48.1%. So it's the good stuff. Got lovely tears on it. So let's see what we have here. So creme pat or creme patisserie, toasted sugar and blackberries and lilacs and a sort of grenadine syrup, pomegranate juice, barley sugar and butterscotch. Those dusty milk bottles, sweeties, and coconut jelly. And you get that fresh peach, the vanilla and the ripe plums welcoming you. And then strawberry, vanilla, raspberry, almond, caramel, and banana. And then you get the tropical fruits, passion fruit, mango, and honey melon. And then candy floss. homemade peach jam and lemon sherbet, an iced bakewell tart, cherry stones, and an almond essence. It's very spirit driven, quite autumnal somehow. There's figs in there definitely, and perhaps some fallen leaves, and a little chili spice, and perhaps a cinnamon stick or potpourri in the background. Try them out. It's got a syrupy mouthfeel and sable grapes, black juicy grapes, and honey. Vanilla, cloves, and more coastal now with some chalkiness, wee pinches of salt, honey, there's some dough, cloves, some fruitiness, coconut shavings, and oak. Banana bread with walnuts and white chocolate chips, fresh pineapple, sweet gooseberry, and subtle notes of lime zest. It's got a good balance between spirit and carbs. Icing sugar, fresh cherries, and it gets a little touch of savoury as well, bay leaf and galangal perhaps. And the finish is chili, pineapple, uh, vanilla sugar, hazelnut, strawberries, coconut, caramel, and apple. Beautifully balanced, sweet and smooth. A medium long finish, and slightly almondy. I'm going to put 3 drops of water in this. Great Scotchness done this. Oh, now I'm getting palm honey, and toffee banana, and fruit toffees, fuchsia, and icing sugar, vanilla, cloves, bit of pepper. It's quite spicy with those hints of tropical fruits and the coastal influence. And then back to that marzipan. And with water, it's a bit oilier. Get those butter caramels, the Werther's originals, and golden raspberries, honey raspberries, and vanilla, still the cloves and the coastalness, and the wee pinches of salt, but honey again, lots of honey, and the coconut and the oak. the finish is elderflower and tinned lychees. The type sort that you get from India, though. Not the ones you would go and get in the shops here, full of syrup, but really nice lychees. Uh, Vanilla and cloves once again. And it's quite creamy now. There's some limestone. There's a light sea breeze and almost a non-specific fruitiness in the finish. So, so this is a fully ex-bourbon matured Scapa, which stands way above the current disappointing core range of the distillery. Uh, 14 years of age, bottled at a nice 48.1% ABV. It's a little gem, and it brings back so much of the memories of the old 12-year-old and the 16-year-old, which were both sadly discontinued over the years. And the complexity after 14 years of maturation is outstanding. And the chosen cask for this expression, there's only 1,500 bottles. They're outstanding. It's a bit tricky to find this, as they only sell it in their distillery shop or ship from the distillery within the UK. But the effort is worth it. So we'll cleanse our palate. So the next one is a little bit different. It's again the second of their easily available core range, and it's the Scapa which is an American oak cask matured Scapa, but it's been finished in casks that previously held smoky peated whiskey. Remember, Scapa don't use any peated malt, and they try and keep the water as peat free as possible. And they describe Glanza as a gentle introduction to the world of peated whiskey. For me, it screams, don't be scared of peated single malt whiskey. As it's only finished in casks that previously held peated whiskey, it may well be the most inoffensive smoky whiskey around. And bottling it at 40% ABV doesn't help, of course. The name Glanza is taken from Norse and means shining storm-laden seas. I've had a couple of whiskies that have been finished in peated casks before. Quite recently I had a Cadenhead whiskey that was finished in Springbank casks. Of course, Caden had easy accessibility to Springbank casks, and I think it lifted the whiskey which came from the distillery just next to Bucky. It begins with an I, and its name right now escapes me. I thought it lifted that whiskey, and then I've had an old Pulteney which was finished in a Lafroig whiskey. I think it was whiskey that had previously held Lafroig, and it wasn't really nice at all. It didn't work for me. So it can be a bit hit and miss. I believe that the casks This was finished in previously held Lafroig, so it'll be interesting to see what we have here. And you can see it's quite light, but again, it's coloured, it's chill filtered, and it's at 40% ABV, and has moderate tears. We're trying to know. So you get pretty sweet notes of soft peach and pineapple and vanilla intermingled with a subtle, incredibly subtle bonfire smoke. It's a bit uncommon, but it's interesting. Uh, Bright peach and lime, and there's hints of pineapple too, and toffee notes and vanilla, as well as meadow flowers. There's still a little dusty note in the background, and as you'd expect, the smoke is really understated. Very fine, subtle peat. Lots of flowers, honey and vanilla, and you get the sweet heather honey and caramel and the fresh fruit, the apple, the pear, the berries, and that heather honey again. Fragrant hay, and then the maltiness and the dough and the hay. And there's a sort of slight woody smoke, embers, peat, watered down creosote, and a toasted oak, and the salted almonds. And again, that maritime, mild maritime note of sea air, salt, and slightly seashells. I'm trying to mouth them. It's got a bit of a thin delivery and watered down ashes. There's some vanilla cake and a subtle pepper, and it's all coated in a round creaminess. There's apple and citrus, and soft hints of roasted coffee beans, which are actually quite nice. Um, there's peach and ripe flavours and creamy caramel toffee, all balanced perfectly with the soft smoke and the ash and flowers, the sweetness, flowers, vanilla, and then the spices kicking with black pepper and the bitterness of the barrel. And then the sweetness, the caramel, the bitter honey, toffee, and the fruit is like citrus, tangerine, stone fruits, and apricot. And there is that spiciness, the white pepper and the bitterness. And again, a little bit of maritime, the brine, the sea salt, and the seashells. And again, the light smokiness of peat, watered down creosote, and a little bit of char, and charred oak, and oak tannins. It's light and it's smooth, and on the palate it's thinner than it was in the nose. In the finish, you get very mild peatiness, a mild spice, bitter, pepper, chili, a bit of wood, charred oak, and tannins, and again a little bit of the maritime salt, brine, the sea air, and it's quite sweet. Toffee, latte, cereals, and there's of course a little bit of spiciness, and of course a little hint of peat. I'm going to try 3 drops of water in this. And there's not an awful lot of Scotchness to this. But I have to say that water does bring up fruitiness on the nose. Get berries, raspberry, strawberry, blackberry, and a light peatiness, which is to be expected from a peated cast finish. I don't get any of the DNA of referring in this. There's no medicinal notes. It's possibly been spent casks or second or third fill casks that they've used. But the the light peatiness goes hand in hand with a salty sea spray and some brine. And there's a whisper of vanilla accompanied by a good amount of ripe banana. And on the mouth, the water brings up the fruitiness on the mouth as well. Berries and smokiness, peat. It's fairly dry and quite peaty, but it's got some soot and tar to boot. Notes of toasted oak, heather, honey, and a light touch of honey around everything. And on the finish, it's quite short, but it's interesting. Cereals and peat are very present. It's on the smoky side, uh, subtle peat and drying. So, so the name Glanza is taken from Norse and means shining, storm-laden skies. I have to say, this is just a light breeze. I thought the Skirin showed potential, but this feather light smokiness is all rather pointless, in my opinion. So we cleanse your palate and move on to the. So when we did the distillery tour and tasting, there were 9 people. Um, Outside, we met a Canadian who did like whiskey, and he didn't like bourbon. He liked Scotch whiskey, and he didn't like bourbon because it uh, it was the corn. I think he preferred the malt in Scotch whiskey, malted barley in Scotch whiskey, and But he'd never been to a wood distillery before, and I told him that I'd recently tried Canadian whiskey, Pine Creek, which of course Canadians tend to favour rye whiskey, which can be quite dry. And he was a really nice man, and we went and did the tour and ended up in the tasting room. And Chris, the German guide, was asking us what we thought of the whiskies and what we were getting from the whiskies. And when everyone knows this one, I think there was possibly some people who possibly had drunk whiskey, but weren't what you would call full-on whiskey nerds like I am, or whiskey geeks like I can be. And I'm not sure many of them have come across sherry cask matured whiskey before, or single cask whiskey before, or as they say, high strength whiskey before. And this next one ticks all of those boxes. Um, I think one person said, I think they were from Norway, and I believe they said that any alcohol they transported back in their hand luggage, if it was above 60%, it was classed as a narcotic and would be confiscated. So, on those terms, what we're about to drink is a narcotic, because this is the Scapa 2008 from the Distillery Reserve collection that Chivas brothers and Pernod Ricard do for their Longmorn distillery. Milton Duff, I think, is another of theirs. They do these Distillery Reserve collection single casks. So this is the Scapa 2008, the Distillery Reserve collection 12-year-old, bottled at 60.2%. It was distilled on the 21st of March 2008 and put into a single first fill Olorosa sherry butt, cask number 609, and it was bottled over 12 years later on the 20th of July 2020 and produced 888 bottles. Still for sale in the distillery. I think this one was about £85 for a 50 cl bottle, or a 5 cl, 50 cl bottle. So, yeah, 50 cl bottle. So this is a sherry cask, Olorosa sherry cask. You can see it's really dark, non-coloured, non-chill filtered, and at natural strength. And it's got fantastic tears. So when some of the others, I think my wife and I were possibly the only British people, certainly the only Scottish people, but I think we were the only British people doing the tour and tasting. When some of the others noticed this, they immediately said all they could smell was sherry wine. I don't get that. For me, it feels cool and dry, and it's insistent. And the alcohol of more than 60% ABV makes itself known, but only in a restrained manner. You get raisins, dark chocolate, and dry sherry. But then you get sweet fruits, orange, plum, and dates, and it's full of dark aromas, bitter chocolate, and coffee powder, and some spices with pepper and nutmeg. And there's notes of oak and old leather and sour currants. It's a very rich, intense, and a very varied scent. But try the mouth. And it's sweeter on the mouth. And you get the Christmas fruits. It's intense and opulent. And there's some suggestions of rye whiskey. And it's rather tannic. Uh, Lots of red fruit, currants, and blackberries. Soft, rich, and compact, and with clear alcohol on the tongue. And the sherry does dominate, along with raisins at first. But there's also dark berries, such as blackberries and blackcurrants, dark dry sherry, and gravy, a fruity gravy with emerging raisins, and you get orange and honey appearing, along with bitter dark chocolate and hints of walnut, that nuttiness from the Oloroso sherry cask, and malt, salt, and tobacco, and it's a nice and complex taste. And the finish is a velvety blanket of both sweetness and bitterness, which fill the mouth, and the heat and alcohol spread down the throat and the stomach. And there's notes of chocolate orange and berries and sweet fruit and bitter chocolate combining into a long, pleasant finish. Now, you can play along with water with this one. It's 60.2%. So you could add quite a bit of water. I'm going to add 5 drops, which would take it down towards the 50% ABV, I would suspect. But we'll see. And it's just fantastic Scotch mist on this. It's gone really cloudy. And it gets sweeter. Sweet cherry, plum, raisins and dates, nuts and toffee. And there's a hint of sulphur, struck match, shoe polish, and green walnuts, and dried Italian herbs, and a very subtle fruity tobacco. Try them out. And it has a more herbal oloroso profile, raisins, rum, rum and raisin ice cream, amaretto, good wood spices. And it's got a very well integrated alcohol. And the finish is long and pleasant, sherry fruity, with a dark sweetness, and dry at the end, with wood, spices without bitterness. This is a very fine malt whisky, which clearly shows that Scapa in sherry cask can truly be something special. The combination of dry sherry, sweet fruits and berries, as well as bitter nuts and chocolate, makes this bottling a truly delightful experience. So I think, like Chris the Guide, Scapa reaches its sweet spot at 12. He thought 12 to 13 years. I think 12 to 16 years old. It's a light, fruity honey spirit with some maritime notes. And I suspect much longer than 12 years in a sherry cask, fully matured, would overpower it. But on the other hand, Scapa is the whisky favoured by Arcadians over the better known, more heavily exposed whisky over the bay, which you can see from Scapa Distillery at Highland Park. I think the American oak cask matured expressions are great entry level drams and summer sippers, even dare I say it, session drams. So thanks for listening, and thanks to my wife for allowing me to go and see that distillery.